Hello, and welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 97, and I'm recording on July 19th, 2025, same day I watched the movie. And the movie was Dark Victory. This one was another one that I thought I was going to have to rent, but I looked it up just before I was going to watch and found that it was available with ads on Fandango at home. So it was another free one. And the ads did extend the time a bit, but worth it not to pay for it. So Dark Victory is a 1939 American melodrama film directed by Edmund Golding, starring Bette Davis and featuring George Brent, Humphrey Bogart, Geraldine Fitzgerald, Ronald Reagan, Henry Travers, and Cora Witherspoon. Screenplay by Casey Robinson was based on the 1934 play of the same title by George Brewer and Bertram Bloch, starring Tallulah Bankhead. Produced by David Lewis, cinematography Ernest Haller, edited by William Holmes, music by Max Steiner, produced and distributed by Warner Brothers. It was released April 22nd, 1939, with a runtime of 104 minutes. Bette Davis was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress, but lost to Vivien Leigh, star of Gone with the Wind. Max Steiner, who was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Score for both this and Gone with the Wind, lost to Herbert Stothart for The Wizard of Oz. The film itself lost the Academy Award for Best Picture to Gone with the Wind. So it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress, and Best Music. She was nominated 11 times. I was looking it up, and she won her first 2 Oscars, if I'm remembering correctly, and then wasn't nominated another 9 times after that. 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Yeah, she won her first 2 for Of Human Bondage and Dangerous. And then, oh, no, wait. Oh, no, I'm sorry. She was nominated for Of Human Bondage. That was her first. And then she won for Dangerous, and then Jezebel, which was from the last round of Oscars. And then she was nominated. Pretty crazy run. Nominated 35, 36, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 45, 51, 53, 63. Crazy. So, Dark Victory. I was not. Okay, so when I was watching, so this is the third of these movies I watched this weekend. When the first one was Goodbye, Mr. Chips. And in that, there's a section where it goes into World War One. And then the next one I watched was Ninotchka. And there was a section I mentioned in the last podcast where somebody Heil Hitlered somebody else. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's like right on the cusp of that, the war beginning and everything. And so with Dark Victory, the title, I thought this was going to be, I was like, oh, it seems like they're sort of moving into sort of, war, because the war was starting around that time, started in September of 1939. And so I thought that this was going to be something with war. But it isn't. It is the story of Bette Davis, who is Judith Traherne. She's a socialite, an heiress. She loves horses, fast cars. She drinks too much, smokes too much. But she starts getting headaches and brief episodes of dizziness and double vision. And, jumping ahead a bit, she meets a doctor, Frederick Steele, who does some tests on her, and they find that she has a brain tumor. And he operates on her and successfully removes the tumor. And at first they're like, she's going to have, she'll be fine. But then they find that it's going to come back, and that, she has maybe 10 months to live and will, basically live a normal life up until that point. And probably just before she dies, her vision will go. And then she'll have a few hours after that. It'll be painless but swift. And the doctor and the other doctors decide quite immorally to not tell her. And I get it. Like it's a very tough moral question. Like so he's falling in love with her and she's falling in love with him. So that's part of it. But the moral quandary there is, do you tell her and then she's always like waiting for the day to come and maybe not enjoying things as much as she could or should? Or do you not tell her and just let her live her socialite life, and then it just happens? Well, they decide not to tell her, and he signs off on it, basically saying that she's free and clear of the cancer. Eventually, she has a best friend named Anne, and eventually she does tell, or the doctor tells Anne because she can see that something's wrong with him. And then, she does fall in love with the doctor, and they finally make plans over the course of the movie. It's, I'm jumping way ahead, but over the course, they decide to get married, and they're going to move to Vermont, where he's going to move his up there to study, you know, bacteria or whatever. When his office is moving, she finds her file and finds that her prognosis was, terminal. So, I think I wrote essentially a romantic comedy structure without the comedy. So, they fall in love, and then there's a reason that they sort of fall out and then come back together. Oh, I did write some notes on this. I wrote Bogart Davis. I wrote Ronald Reagan, exclamation point. This is the first thing I've ever seen him in. I also wrote it's funny to see Bogart in kind of a smaller role just before, so like a much bigger role like Casablanca a couple of years later. And I wrote that it was a little over dramatic at times, mostly from Bette Davis. I do think she's a very good actress. And I think this is maybe the second, Jezebel. She was in the previous year's Oscars. I saw her, and I think she was good in that too. So, I thought this was going to be about war or something, and it turned out to be this thing. And I gotta say, by the end of this one, I was a little teary. It was like I was very emotional at the end. Again, a little maybe over dramatic in the way that she chose to go out, and not that she like killed herself or anything, but she like pushes the husband away, the doctor, and then basically it pushes everybody away so that she can die alone, which is, a little bit weird, whatever. But it was sad. I gave this one 4 stars on Letterboxd. I liked it very much. And this one, I don't know if I watched it in the morning versus the ones I watched at night where I was maybe not paying attention quite as much, but this one I was a little more focused on. Maybe I was just more awake, but I like this very much. It was very good, and she was very good. But I do find that I like her a lot, and everybody was very good in this. So Reagan had a pretty small part. He was like a suitor that was in love with her before she met the doctor, and of course the gentleman, he just gives way to the doctor when the time comes. And Humphrey Bogart played a horse trainer that worked for her, who was also in love with her. So, basically it was one of those characters where everybody's in love with her. And I guess the lead actor, what was his name? George Brent and Bette Davis had like a 2-year fling. Off screen, Bette Davis suffered a nervous breakdown during filming as a result of her crumbling marriage to Harmon Nelson. Davis's marital problems didn't prevent her from embarking on an affair with co-star George Brent. Davis and Brent appeared in a total of 11 movies together. I don't know if this is true. It says during the filming of the emotionally charged scene where Bette Davis's character needs to find her way upstairs to her room after the brain tumor has caused her blindness, cast and crew and several visitors were watching as she grasped the banister and began to feel her way up the steps one by one. Halfway to the top of the staircase, Davis paused, stopped the scene, briskly walked back downstairs, and addressed director Edmund Goulding. Ed, Davis said, is Max Steiner going to be composing the music score to this picture? Goulding, surprised by the question, replied that he didn't know, and asked Davis why the matter was important enough to stop the filming of the scene. Well, either I'm going to climb those stairs or Max Steiner is going to climb those stairs, Davis responded, but I'll be goddamned if Max Steiner and I are going to climb those stairs together. She was the first actor to receive 10 Academy Award nominations. Oh, yeah, okay. Last saw his favorite co-star Bette Davis in 1978 when he went to visit her backstage at one of her one-woman shows in San Diego that featured film clips from her vast career. She didn't recognize him at first as he had grown quite old, white-haired, and unhealthily overweight. He died in May of 1979. Had a tumultuous 2-year-long affair with Betty Davis, his frequent and most prolific co-star of 11 feature films. So Big, 1932, The Rich Are Always With Us, 1932, Housewife, 1934, Front Page Woman, 1935, Special Agent, 1935, The Golden Arrow, 36, Jezebel, 38, Dark Victory, 39, The Old Maid, 39, The Great Lie, 41, and This Is Our Life, 42. They were a good match for each other, so makes sense. Yeah. So I'm going on and on, but I like this one a lot. Gave it 4 stars. I don't know if it is the best reviewed of this bunch. I think I also gave Love Affair 4 stars. Let's see. Yeah, 4 stars for Love Affair too. So those are my 2 favorites. All right. I'll leave it there. See you next time.